Hello my dear students, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with the video containing question and answers of the chapter The Best Advice I Ever Had. And this chapter is of class 9. So let us discuss the question and answers. And students, we have already seen the chapter's explanation in my earlier video, but for your ease and for your benefit, I'll be putting the link in the description box so that you can easily click on the link and go through the chapter's explanation once again if you need it. So let's discuss the question and answers. But students, if you are viewing my video for the first time, do subscribe my channel and hit the bell icon so that you get the notifications of my latest videos. And do watch the video till end. If you like it, hit the like button and do comment in the comment section. And you also have many more things and question answers of 9th and 10th standard and English explanations in this channel. So you can subscribe it, share it to your friends, and have the full benefit of the videos uploaded in this channel. So students, let us move on to the question and answers of this chapter. So we have first question: based on your reading of the lesson, answer the following questions by choosing the most appropriate option. This is as per your textbook. So the optional questions are: the first one, Mrs. Vijay Lakshmi resented her galling position. The galling position referred to here is the death of her husband, her position as a widow without a son, she and her daughters not being entitled to any share of the family property, or the hatred of her family members. So the answer is she and her daughters not being entitled to any share of the family property. Like she was not feeling comfortable because she was not recognized in the society. She was not having that position now because she has lost her husband, and because of that she was not getting any share in the family property. So she felt resented of this galling position. That is why the answer is she and her daughters not being entitled to any share of the family property. Second question, according to Gandhiji, Mrs. Vijay Lakshmi could cleanse the bitterness of her heart by making peace with her relatives, going out of the country for some time, asking excuse from her relatives, or fighting for her rights. So when we learn the lesson, we get to know that Gandhiji was counseling Mrs. Vijay Lakshmi Pandit, and according to him, how could she cleanse her bitterness of the heart, the anger which she had for her relatives? So there are four options given, and the answer is making peace with her relatives. Means discussing and being open and talking to them will make her be more comfortable than carrying that bitterness and anger in her heart. So the answer is making peace with her relatives. Then third question, Mrs. Vijayalakshmi said, I thought of the counsel that had calmed me so many times. The counseling referred to here is. So as we learn the lesson, we know that she had many counsels from Gandhiji. But here she is praising one of the counsel which has calmed her many times when she became angry. So what is that exactly counsel referred to here? So they have given the options: never hate anyone, no one can harm you but you yourself, treating others in the same way, or not to be revengeful. So it's no one can harm you but yourself. It's option B, no one can harm you but yourself. When you come across the chapter, read the chapter, you come to know that Gandhiji had counseled many times that you should not harm yourself, and it is the worst thing that you yourself, if you start harming, then it will be a worst condition of your heart, and no one can harm you unless and until you allow them. So the answer is no one can harm you but you yourself. The next main in your textbook is discuss the answers for the following questions with your partner and then write them in your notebook. And first question under that is, why was Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit in anguish? Why was she angry? So answer is Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit was in anguish because many sad events made her lose her faith in humanity. She was in great pain as she had lost her husband recently, and the rigid Indian law did not entitle her for a share from husband's property, and her importance was not recognized in the society without her husband. So students, the question is like why she was angry. The answer is because she was angry because she had undergone many sad events in in her life, and she had lost the faith in humanity. The people, the human, were not treating properly. They were just uh, this were just very meanful or partial, you can say. So she had lost all the faith in humanity, and she was in great pain at that time because she had recently lost her husband, and the rigid Indian law which was there, I did not entitle her even for a share from the husband's property. And she was not given any importance, she was not recognized in the society just because she was not having a son and she was without a husband. So, this all events made her being in anguish. So, let's move to the second question. In paragraph 3, Mrs. Pandit speaks about antiquated law. What is referred to as antiquated law? So in paragraph 3, when you learn, there is a word antiquated law. So what is the meaning of this antiquated law? So the answer is the antiquated law is referred to the Indian law which treated a widow without a son as a non-entity. Vijay Lakshmi Pandit was upset with the antiquated Indian law which treated the woman with disrespect, even though the woman had struggled and worked hard along with the men in the national struggle for freedom. So here antiquated law is nothing but the old Indian law. During ancient times, the law which was followed, and it was so antique, so old, and it treated a widow without a son as a non-entity. She was not recognized. A widow who has lost her husband, a woman who has lost her husband, being a widow, if she doesn't have a son, she was not recognized in a society. And Mrs. Vijayalakshmi Pandit, she was very much upset with this antiquated law because it did not treat women properly with equality. It treated with disrespect. Even the women had struggled equally they had worked hard along with men in the national struggle for freedom and in every field. Even then, they were not given the respect and the dignity they needed in the society. Thus, Mrs. Pandit speaks about antiquated law in this lesson. Then, why was Mrs. Pandit going to America according to Gandhiji? We come across the incident here in this chapter that Mrs. Pandit was ready to go to America. So why was she ready to go according to Gandhiji? So answer is according to Gandhiji, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit was going to America to escape from reality. She wanted to be away from her relatives as she was unhappy with them. She was going to America with bitterness in heart, and this would cause her further injury because she did not have the courage to cleanse her own heart. So, according to Gandhiji, what he said here was Mrs. Pandit. She was going to America just to escape from the reality of the harsh society, the laws, the antiquated laws, the ill treatment. So she just wanted to escape from all these things, but she wanted to be away from her relatives also because she was very unhappy because even they did not support her, even they did not help her during her distress. And that was the reason that she was going to America, with the bitterness and the anger she had in her heart. And if she had gone with this, she would have caused more injury to herself by harming herself, because she did not have that courage to cleanse her own heart. She was not feeling comfortable, she was not feeling ease, because she had so much of burden and bitterness in her heart. So that is why she was going to America, according to Gandhiji, what he is saying here in this chapter. Next question, students. What did Gandhiji want Mrs. Pandit to do before going abroad? What was Mrs. Pandit's response to that? So Gandhiji wanted Vijayalakshmi Pandit to cleanse her heart of anger and pride and make peace with her husband's family before going abroad. So what Gandhiji wanted was that Mrs. Pandit should at least meet her relatives, husband's family, and clean all her heart, whatever anger and pride she was having in her heart. She should remove it and make peace and happiness with the family and then go abroad. What was her response? Her response at first was negative. She did not want to meet any of the family members because she was very angry. Next question. How did Gandhiji make Mrs. Pandit meet her relatives? Like, what did Gandhiji do? that Mrs. Pandit met her relatives later on, because at first she was not listening to him. She did not obey Gandhiji's words. But later on, what did he do to convince her? So answer is, Gandhiji made Mrs. Pandit meet her relatives by convincing her that it was necessary for her to lighten her heart instead of carrying bitterness and anger for her relatives when she was abroad. So the Gandhiji convinced Mrs. Pandit to just meet her relatives before leaving to America and abroad, because it was very necessary for her to lighten her heart, to remove and throw away all the burden and the hatred and the negative emotions what she had in her heart. Instead of carrying that bitterness and anger, she would meet her relatives and be happy and lighten her heart before going abroad. So this is how he convinced her to meet the relatives. Next, must you inflict further injury on yourself? What is the injury referred to here? Means if you harm yourself, you are going to harm more and more to yourself if you're not removing your negative emotions, if you're keeping you angry. So answer is the injury that she would cause to her heart by being angry with her relatives. So what is that injury? That injury is nothing but the pain and the sorrow and the anger which she had in her heart for her relatives. If she never cleared that, that injury would become more and it would harm her more. So that is what the injury mentioned here, referred here. Then second B question, why did Gandhiji ask Mrs. Pandit to not to hurt herself? The answer is, Gandhiji knew that one's angriness would hurt own self more than anyone else. He did not wanted Mrs. Pandit to burden her heart more and more with sadness. Okay, so why Gandhiji asked Mrs. Pandit that no, do not hurt yourself, do not hurt herself? Gandhiji knew that if she is being in angerness, she's going to hurt herself, because it's general, it's normal with everyone. If you are angry, and you would hurt yourself more than anyone else, because it is in your heart to keep on thinking, you keep on burdening your heart, and it is going to harm you and your health. So he knew this, so he did not wanted this to happen with Mrs. Pandit. He did not wanted Mrs. Pandit to burden her heart more and more with sadness, because already she is suffering a lots of loss in her life. She had seen many sad things. She had undergone many sorrowful situations. So he did not wanted her to have any more sadness and burden in her heart. Next, why did Mrs. Pandit not meet her relatives in the beginning before she left for America? When we see the chapter, we understand that before at first, Mrs. Pandit was not willing to meet the relatives. Why was it so? So answer is, Mrs. Pandit was very angry with her relatives who believed in the antiquated law and did not even entitle the share from her husband's property. They did not even felt her importance without a son. So she was not willing to meet at the beginning because she was very angry with her relatives, because even they believed in antiquated law which was there in India, and they even did not entitle or give her a share from her husband's property. So she did not like that. She was very angry, and they even did not feel her importance. They did not recognize her in the society because she was not having a son too. So this all antiquated laws and their approach, the relatives approach, was not liked by Mrs. Pandit. That is why she was not willing to meet at the beginning. Next, I lifted the debate back to where it belonged. What was the debate about? So there's a sentence when we learn the chapter, when they read the chapter, that there was a debate where Mrs. Pandit was doing a debate. But what was the topic of that debate? So the debate was on India's complaint about the treatment of people of Indian origin in South Africa. Because she was attending a conference there, she had participated in a debate, and the debate's topic was India's complaint. They had complained about the ill treatment of the people of Indian origin who are living in South Africa. So the debate's topic was that. Next, why? Mrs. Pandit recollected the advice of Gandhiji often. What was the advice? When we read the chapter, we come across this that Mrs. Pandit recollected Gandhiji's advice every now and then in every situation. So, what was that piece of advice? Answer is the advice was not to do anything that injures our self respect, to be humble, and remember that no one can harm us except ourselves. So, these are the things which Gandhiji often counseled her, advised her that we should not injure our self respect. We should not do something which is going to harm our self respect. We should always be humble, polite, and we should remember that no one can harm us except ourselves. Only when we start harming ourselves, it is that we can harm more and more, and others can harm. Until and unless you permit yourself, nobody can harm yourself, harm you. So this was the advice given by Gandhiji, and that was recollected again and again by Mrs. Pandit whenever she was in any trouble or any such situation. Next question. After visiting her relatives, Mrs. Pandit commented, I felt as if a great burden had been lifted and I was free to be myself. Have you experienced such a situation or a feeling in your life? Discuss. This question is to you students, as Mrs. Pandit commented that she felt very free after talking and having a good talk and discussion with the relatives. So, have you ever experienced such a situation? You can write your opinion here. Here, it's yes, it is always good to be open and discuss in relationships. If we keep anger and hatred, it will burden our heart. So, it is good to discuss and get out of the negative emotions. It's obviously true, students, that if you are having any misunderstandings or any anger or hatred, you need to open up and speak up in the relation with your friends and with your kins and siblings, so that you don't have that hatred in your heart, because up till if the hatred remains in your heart, you will be burdened by yourself. So it's very good to discuss and get out of all the negative emotions and have a good relation again, and you will feel lightened up once you share this. So try doing this if you are having a hatred or some bad situations are going on with your relations. Okay, next question. What do you infer about the relationship between Mrs. Pandit and Gandhiji from reading this lesson? So what idea you get about the relationship between Mrs. Pandit and Gandhiji? So answer is, from the chapter we get to know that there was a openness in Gandhiji and Mrs. Pandit's relationship. Gandhiji felt free to tell her about thoughts and behavior, whereas Mrs. Pandit had faith and trust in Gandhiji's counsel and advice. So yes, students, when we go through the lesson, we come to know that there was openness in Gandhiji, that he did not hide anything. Whatever was his opinion about Mrs. Pandit's thought and behavior, he felt free and he told her, and he corrected her, he gave her the advice. And whereas Mrs. Pandit also had faith and trust in Gandhiji. Whatever counsel and advice Gandhiji gave her, she took it with trust and faith and implemented, and she had a great benefit also. So this shows that they had a very good relationship and understanding with each other. Next question. Describe the state of mind of the cook referred to in the lesson. So we also have a cook in the story where there was some situation where Mrs. Pandit had to undergo. So what was the state of mind of the cook? So the answer is, the cook was drunk and his mind was not stable. He had messed up everything by getting drunk. So here there was an occasion and the cook was drunk and he was not stable. He was just doing all nonsense things there, and he had messed up the whole kitchen by getting drunk, and he did not do his work properly at the time, though it was a very important occasion. But even then it was handled very carefully by Mrs. Pandit again. So this is what given here, the state of mind. It was totally, the cook was totally drunk and he was not stable. So here, students, we come to an end of the question answer session here. I hope you all have understood the question answers. It was useful for you all. It will help you. And thank you for watching my video. If you liked it, do comment and share and hit the like button. Thank you.